Let me tell you first what culture is and where it needs enrichment. Culture involves beliefs, values, languages, customs, idioms, ethics, behaviors, music, and in short, forms the identity of a nation. So you see that it is the components of a culture that makes it a spotted or a spotless. As a result, enrichment also must take place among the components in order to make the culture a quality culture. To have a good quality culture does not necessarily mean that you need to get rid of your present culture, but to enrich or replace the parts which have become blemished. For this reason, you need to open your heart to the best values of life, even if they are from those people whom you do not like. Because good values are always good, no matter where they come from. They are there for everybody. We need to delightfully replace the darker components of our culture with these good values in order to make our culture beautiful. Have you thought deeply about your culture? Allow me to share with you some problems that blemish the components of a culture. Maybe your culture is blemished and needs restoration. One example is the meddling problem in a blemished culture. Isn't intruding in the lives of others and ignoring their autonomy a daily habit in Islamic culture? Because of the authoritarian nature of Islam, all who are older than you in your extended family meddle in your life even though you are mature and have your own family. Government and sometimes people too do not respect your freedom. Your own family and extended family members also become harsh to you if you do not think or believe like them. Such inappropriate interferences are always the cause of insecurity among family members, in the society, and are roadblocks to improvement in every way. Why? Because people hesitate to bring newness into their lives in order to keep their relatives or leaders happy and avoid more disruption. The society remains closed to new and good things because of harsh relationships. A second problem of a blemished culture is the disrespect toward critics. Life in a culture where criticism is not tolerated becomes extremely harsh. Many people do not treat their free-thinking fellow citizens with dignity because of fear from leaders. They are expected to stay away from critics or opponents. Their reaction may become very violent if the critics are women or girls. Criticism of political leadership is very costly, and the criticism of someone with a higher rank may also cost a great deal. In such an intolerant culture, people will choose silence over injustice and progressively fall into the hands of further injustice. Injustice also will in turn stifle creativity, increase indifference, intolerance, and hostility, and block the way of progress. Tell me honestly, is your society struggling with this kind of darkness? If yes, then you need to search for light outside of your culture and to fulfill your responsibility in restoring your culture. Another problem of a blemished culture is the fear from insiders. Time and again, we have witnessed many Muslims thinking and acting secretly. They don't want their own family members or fellow Muslims to know of their decisions. They have great trust in those outsiders who respect freedom of choice, but they hardly trust their own people since there is no respect for freedom among them. This fear is the result of such abnormal interference among Muslims, which has created distrust and disharmony. No society can grow in fear, distrust, and disharmony. Has your society created such a fear? You need to unchain yourself from this fear and not let anyone put you and your dignity down. My teaching is to help you to preserve your dignity and also teach others to do likewise. Another problem of a blemished culture is concealing the dark spots of that culture. Some tend to justify or conceal the unjustifiable or deny its existence. For example, there is a religious permission in Islam for Muslim men to beat their wives, yet Muslims refuse to confirm this to outsiders. Or Islam gives permission to lie under some circumstances, but Muslims deny it in front of strangers. Such suppressive values will remain in a culture and create much loss unless revealed and challenged. The best way to enrich your culture is to reveal its darker parts so others can see and offer you best options. Exaggeration and twisting the truth are other problems with a blemished culture. Does your culture focus greater attention toward presenting a superficial appearance, introducing failure as victory, or exaggerating small victories? Have you tried to stay away from this darkness? If not, then you need to adopt good values from a good culture and renew your culture in these areas and free yourself and your family from such darkness. You were taught from childhood that you have to keep your appearance pleasant, but hide the unpleasant things inside you. This teaching is not honest. If you keep the darkness inside you, your entire life will be affected by darkness, and you will not be able to have a long-lasting happiness, but only a superficial one. You need desperately to cure your tongue and your culture from such a damaging darkness. Favoritism is another problem of a blemished culture. Some people shelter favoritism and partiality, which is not in the best interest of society. Favoritism opens the door to lawlessness, discrimination, and chaos. And favoritism in a society can degrade the culture more when someone with inexperience gets promoted in place of experienced, more qualified worker. Favoritism also opens the door to people who are unfit for leadership, further jeopardizing the culture. If your belief allows favoritism, you need to adopt a belief that rejects this darkness and leaves the door open to a better life. Another problem of a blemished culture is generating irresponsibility. In some beliefs, people are encouraged to turn to the wealth of others instead of working hard and relying on their own income. One of those beliefs is Islam, that teaches its followers to loot others who are not Muslims. With such a belief that dishonors others, you cannot have a good culture. You need to replace it with a belief that appreciates hardworking people, including strangers, and respects the right of all. A good culture or belief must teach responsibility to its people against laziness, so that they can stand on their own feet and become productive citizens instead of taking others' belongings. Extreme nationalism is another problem of a blemished culture. An extreme nationalist is someone who says, our people are better than others. We do not need to change. We are open only to those who think like us. Strangers are strangers. We have to dominate others. This is not a healthy nationalism. A healthy nationalism is one that values and upholds not only its own culture, but also reflects an openness and curiosity toward that of others. Nationalism that promotes segregations creates a stagnant culture. Another problem of a blemished culture is the uncertainty in that culture. There is uncertainty in many aspects of life within some cultures. A great cause of this uncertainty is the dominant belief that fosters ambiguity about the future instead of assurance. Such doubt will penetrate into every part of life, including social and political relationships, and may create distrust among people. Uncertainty is a spiritual darkness that leads into all manner of darkness if not cured. In an uncertain culture, the courage to break faulty tradition of ancestors decreases. Criticism is not tolerated, and to express a desire for newness is costly. Everyone is forced to speak well of their beliefs and authorities and keep quiet about wrong instructions or actions. Generally speaking, people are forced to accept everything leaders impose on them. A good example of this uncertainty and ambiguity can be found in Islamic countries, where even in a group, leaders distrust their companions and vice versa. Sometimes an individual is humiliated, imprisoned, or even killed by a family or a group member for the cause of religion or politics. The tension between Sunni and Shia started 1400 years ago in a similar way among the successors of Muhammad. This took place after his death and remains the same to this day. You see how uncertainty in a belief creates uncertainty in relationships, which promote dishonest tactics and self-seeking culture. There is a saying among Iranians which says, even a dog doesn't recognize its masters, referring to that uncertainty. It is hard to beat the confidence of a dog in its master. But if the master is uncertain, that's what makes the dog lost and wandering. In an uncertain culture, trust is very rare and has many conditions approached to it. Harmony is not deep, but superficial and accompanied by much lip service. Although people desire better relationships, there are many invisible walls which hinder harmony because of the uncertainty in their culture. Because of this disharmony, the rights of others carry a secondary importance and are ignored easily. Friendships are normally temporary and can turn into hatred by anything, small or big. Does your culture have the above mentioned problems? If yes, then do your part to change it. How? You need to start within your own context. Stay away from the things that corrupt your life and culture. If your belief or religion has negatively impacted your culture, act on it. Find that why and search for a belief that promotes freedom, peace, and has respect for all, friends and strangers alike. Choosing not to act can be detrimental to society. The effect of bad things are always detrimental. No wisdom in the world so far has endorsed bad things as beneficial. Harmful aspects of a culture are damaging. You each have personal and social responsibility to stay away from engaging in them. Adopt good things from other cultures and put them into practice in your own life and be renewed. Your new life will be a light to your culture and society. Many others will learn from you. Do the same and make a positive impact on your culture. Never turn back from your responsibility in contributing good things to your culture. Let me give you an example of indifference so you can see how dangerous it can be for you and others. A German pastor, Martin Niemöller, describes how indifference in him impacted his and others' life negatively. He said, while Hitler was killing gypsies, he said to himself that he was not a gypsy and did not need to defend them. He had the same excuse when Hitler killed communists, Jews, and others. After Hitler finished others, he started to get rid of inside the opposition too. It was then that Martin was jailed also. He said no courageous people were left anymore to defend him against Hitler. If he and people like him had defended the lives of people who were slaughtered before, now he would have many people in his society to defend his life. A passive stance is a cultural darkness which leaves room for wrong to flourish until all society is harmed. That is why you need to enrich your culture. Culture is not static, but dynamic and changeable. We can improve our culture by embracing wholesome values that reject darkness. There is a responsibility on your shoulder to enrich your personal and national culture.